he told me to come back at the end of the year and we'll test you again because syphilis has a way of the antibodies or something staying in your system.
So he was just giving you one shot?
Right.
Okay.
Right, based off the symptoms and how long, you know, he could tell. And I guess there's a titer number.
A titer, yes.
Titer. Based on that number, he said, you know.
Okay, so a titer, for those of you who are watching, basically means how many particles of this are in your bloodstream at the time.
Right.
So he probably said, well, your titer is kind of low, you are positive, so if we do this one shot, it'll probably knock it out. So he never said, come back and we'll retest you to make sure the titer has decreased more. He just said 10 days later, you should be fine.
Right, right.
Okay.
So I went, and so that was through my personal doctor.
Yes.
Then I went through our industry, you know, following into the regiment that I've been used to, every 30 days getting a test. I went and to get the test for the HIV, the gonorrhea, and chlamydia, and then the number was still there.
Okay, how many days later is this?
This was like a week, 1 week later.
Okay.
Yeah, a little over a week, like 8 days.
Okay.
So, you know, now I'm worried because I'm like, what is that, you know? And I talked to the doctor, and then that's when he explained that this number would be there. But there was medicine. I did the shot the next day. And
so they give you a second shot?
Well, no, I did the shot back when I first found out I had it.
Okay.
Right. And then I let that time elapse, went and got the normal test that I...
And the normal test doesn't even test for syphilis, though.
Right, right. But because this specific time we were starting to,
oh, I see.
it was all a matter of timing.
Yeah,
It was a coincidence. It was like, for me, it felt like I was on it was two trains going to collide. No matter how much I wanted to avoid it, it was going to happen. Because I wanted to deal with this privately.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, deal with it privately, because part of me felt like it would be a big deal, and I didn't want it to be a big deal.
Right. So had you had sex with anybody between the two tests?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
And so when you went to the second, the industry doctor, he tells you, well, you have syphilis, and you tell him I've had a shot and everything. And does he basically say, okay, well, if you've been treated, then that's fine?
Right. Right. Yeah. He reiterated the same fact. And it was my doctor that gave me the diagnosis, and it was the different place where I went and actually got the shot.
I see.
Right. And I went back to after I got the shot, and then found out that the titer number was going to be there, I was like, okay.
Does does your family doctor know what business you're in?
No.
Okay. So this is the thing. So he didn't really even know, doesn't know much about you. And
Right.
it's just, have you gotten a new doctor since this happened? I have to ask.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay.
Well, it's funny because I rarely get sick, man. I 18 years in this business, I barely caught anything.
Yeah.
And
I think you had, maybe you talked about one more scare that you had when you were married. Did you have I thought I read it. I heard you in an interview say something about, kind of when you were early into the business, you did catch. I don't know.
Oh, like chlamydia or something. Yeah, I probably did. And early on, I don't know. This theory can be debated, but most men in the business tend to build up immune to stuff like this. There's a lot of guys that have been working as long as I have, and we're all like, you catch it. You just chlamydia and gonorrhea, kind of like.
Kind of like a cough. Like a common cold.
Right. I don't know. It's just so, when this happened to me, I was trying to deal with it in a private matter, and I thought it was like, bring your stress down. Oh yeah, get this shot. Okay, you'll be fine. And my thinking was just to, get back to normal.
Okay.
The rashes went away, like within that 7-day period, and I started feeling better, and everything looked better, and
So then you said, okay, so I'm over it. And so how did you get from testing positive in both of those places to going straight back to work?
Well, our testing, now they have two tests.
Okay.
That one checks for your syphilis if you never had it. And then there's a test that we use that's tests for syphilis if you've had it before. Okay. So that those numbers are, even though you've been treated,
sure.
And you're not infectious anymore. Right. So then you get the cosign on the doctor. Well, I didn't have the cosign on the doctor, but I had the amount of time that I had from taking the shot and getting to the point where I'm at, it was like 11 days now.
Okay.
And and I looked at the symptoms and from everything I can gather from the doctors that I talked to, the things I read online, was that I was okay again.
Right, and so you went back to work.
Right.
Now, what did you show them? Because I understand you have to show them documents when you say I've been tested and everything's okay.
Right.
How did you alter the paperwork to make
it was two things. Okay. I went to the doctors and I asked them, our testing facility, and I said, okay, I need to get back to work.
Yeah.
And I've had this medicine in my system for a lot of time. Symptoms are gone. What can I do to go back to work? And the doctor, one of the clinicians there said that, okay, well, we can remove that part of your test and just keep it, because you gotta understand there's 2 testing facilities in our industry, and one wasn't even testing for the syphilis
at all.
Right, and they weren't going to start until September. And they were the hierarchy. They were the people that kind of...
You talk about the timing, but timing is important with syphilis. So, I mean,
right.
It was such a beautiful thing that you had found out that you had it, because most people can walk around with it for years and never get tested and never know.
Well, yeah.
End up with neurosyphilis. Right. So, I mean, your time, it's like you had angels looking out for you on getting treated. Right. So that's the good thing.
If it was up to me, I would have got treated a long time ago. I would have caught...
You'd have known.
I would have caught it immediately and be like, oh, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I did not know what the symptoms were. They call it the imitator because it looks like other stuff. Right.
So, in the media they're saying that you fraudulently did your paperwork.
I just didn't. I didn't disclose my results for the syphilis because I've been treated. I've been taken care of. We weren't required to show that part. Yeah. That was like something new, and it wasn't something that was mandatory that we show each other. There's barely, the way, one of the problems or loopholes was that I was a well-known performer, and a lot of times I wasn't really asked to show my test. I'd show up and said, me and the girl, and most of the times either the producer had looked it up online or he kind of left it in the hands of the talent, and the talent would just kind of sign off on each other and go ahead and start working. So, that helped propel things forward.
Sure. Because it's kind of a culture of everybody's comfortable with you, you're comfortable with everybody, it just kind of goes. Right. So in terms of your colleagues now, how are they treating you? Are they treating you differently?
Well, that's all changed now.
Okay.
I've become the black, sheep of the industry and blackballed and just kind of, a lot of bitterness, a lot of disappointment. That was the first thing, because what was, a girl put it, eloquently. She texted me, she says, if you just would have came out and said you had it, we could have dealt with it, because she said it's an annoying disease, but it's curable. Or it's annoying, it's an annoying disease, but it's curable. And then, but because you didn't do it that way, and you probably would have been seen as a good example, but because you didn't do it that way, you've opened up a Pandora's box of things for you and the industry.
Well, I know one of the big things is you never want to disappoint your fans and your family. I know you're very close to your family, your mom, your dad, your kids. Recently just lost your sister, so your family is just trying to, make it through. When this happened and this hit, how did your family respond? What were some of the advice that your dad gave you?
Well, it was really my mom. Most of the people that are really genuine, true people, they all say the same thing. This too shall pass.
Yes.
And the barrage of criticism and hindsight's 20/20, and just by who I am in the industry and how long I've been around and how outspoken I am, it was just really a lot of bad judgment on my part. There was things in our industry that could have been done better, like the testing facility. A doctor would have said, well, let's.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Think if the doctors had stepped in and
did because there was two separate. It was doctors that were outside the industry, and then there was no doctors within the industry.
Sure.
You're dealing with clinicians that are just basically taking your blood and
giving you the results and saying, yeah, fine. Okay.
Right.
Well, with that being said, you're dealing with this concept of the people who used to trust you kind of don't anymore. So what's next? What are you? Where do you see this propelling? Because, you get lemons, you make lemonade,
Right.
So what's next for Mr. Marcus, and where are things headed?
Well, I have a pretty good fan base. And
yeah.
Thank God they kind of stepped up.
Sure.
And it was, and it was cured a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you gotta deal with, you have a certain amount of people that are misinformed, think you're still running around with it. And so you gotta convince those people you're cool, and then you deal with your industry, try to educate your industry, and we have better procedures now because of this. Now we test for syphilis every month. Now the facility that I went through to get the testing now has a doctor. Yeah. They brought in the 2 different types of tests because they found out there were people in the industry who had syphilis prior. Because of the test that they were taking, they were going to have some kind of reactiveness to their test. There's going to be a titer number for them, even though it's low and they're not infectious, but they still needed to acknowledge those people and sign them off to continue to work. Exactly. So that's changed. And as far as me, I just said, okay, I'm still Mr. Marcus.
Yeah, that's right.
I have 18 years in the business. If anybody can go through something like this, me.
You can, yes, and you'll still be standing at the end of the day. So, for those of you who don't know anything about syphilis, yes, it is a very treatable illness, but you got to be tested for it, and you got to know you had it. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. I know this has been a tough time for you and your family, and I've been rooting for you through the whole thing. I really respect the way that you handled it. You came out and said, I made a mistake, and I'm going to do better, and what more could we ask from you for that?
Right.
All right, so I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Don't forget to click on one of the arrows to see our most commented videos.